Network's Cartoon Theater presents Scooby Doo on Zombie Island, only on Cartoon Network.
One could say Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island is the Citizen Kane of Scooby-Doo movies. This movie is the best iteration of Scooby-Doo. It's right up there with Mystery Incorporated and the Ghoul School. Correction, this is Izzy from the future. I'm editing the video and I was looking at footage of the Ghoul School and Scrappy raps.
Now let's get loose and dance and clap while I lay on my Scrappy rap.
So I retract my statement about Ghoul School being quality, and yeah, back to the video. However, despite it being advertised as the first time the monsters were real,
Because this time, the monsters are real.
what about the Ghoul School students, their parents, the Boo Brothers, Shaggy, who was personally a werewolf, and there was at least 13 ghosts in the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. I say that as if I didn't know the 13th Ghost of Scooby-Doo was canceled before the story concluded, and only 12 of the 13 ghosts were featured. However, in 2019, a follow-up movie, The Curse of the 13th Ghost, features the 13th Ghost, just decades after the show was canceled. You know, as you do. Zombie Island sets the stage for the ongoing selective continuity of the franchise. In the timeline Zombie Island takes place in, only the original series, Scooby-Doo Where Are You, is canon. So there's no Scrappy-Doo, no Boo Brothers, no Ghoul School, and especially no Flim Flam. For now.
Well, I guess the gang's all here.
Except Scrappy!
What's a Scrappy?
The Scooby-Doo franchise does what the Simpsons franchise does, where the newest entry or episode takes place in the current year of release. And any backstory or previous events are still in canon, they're just moved up in the timeline. Or sometimes plot points will get referenced, but the context might change. And as a result, some really cool stuff gets connected. Like the movie Camp Scare. Sets up that Fred went to Little Moose summer camp, and in The Curse of the 13th Ghost, they used that plot point as an explanation for why he was missing in the 13th Ghost series. But I'm getting way too off track on Scooby-Doo lore. Zombie Island is an interesting piece of Scooby-Doo history, as it helped keep Scooby-Doo the franchise stay alive when interest for Scooby was waning. By the 80s, Scooby-Doo was slowly dying, with the last season/series of its original run, The 13th Ghost of Scooby-Doo, was canceled in 85. The first real reboot of the franchise happened in 88 with Scooby pulling a Muppet Babies, with a pup named Scooby-Doo. There was also a set of Scooby-Doo movies where the gang met real monsters, but the gang was shaved down to just Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy. Also, Shaggy wears a red shirt in this era for some reason. Scooby-Doo as a franchise had finally reached a point of no return, and the series was finally ending. That was until Turner purchased Hanna-Barbera to acquire the programming for the 24/7 cable network, which you may have heard of, Cartoon Network. The rerun started to revive interest in the 30-year-old franchise, and thus the direct-to-video movie was greenlit. It's pretty common knowledge that Zombie Island stories stem from an unused SWAT Cat script, so like any Zombie Island video, I'm obligated to mention it, so there's that. It's an interesting fact, I just don't know what to say about it. Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island was nothing like the series had seen before. The original series was animated by Hanna-Barbera, which is a studio known for quantity over their quality. However, Zombie Island was animated by the Japanese studio Mook Animation, and this is the best Scooby has ever looked, at least up to this point.
This just gets better and better, maybe from where you're standing.
Comparing the movie with the original series is like night and day. The original series was boarded to be mostly flat, straight-on camera angles, easy to repurpose assets if every camera angle is from the same perspective. In a way, the original series is kind of like an animated multicam sitcom, like Big Bang Theory, where a bunch of cameras are filming at the same time from different camera angles, all from the same side of the room. While Zombie Island is quote-unquote shot, more like a single cam show, for example Community, where scenes are shot by shot with one camera set up for each specific shot. Both single cam and multicam have their purposes, but I definitely prefer single cam productions because they're so much more dynamic looking. Now's a good time to talk about the voice cast. Shaggy in this movie is voiced by Billy West for the first and I believe last time. The story is, Shaggy's original voice actor, Casey Kasem, was in talks to reprise his role as Shaggy. Kasem had departed the role over disputes over Shaggy's diet. Kasem had become vegan and desired Shaggy to follow suit. and was upset when Shaggy appeared in a Burger King's commercial voiced by Tom Kenny.
Like, I'll have 400 Kids Club meals.
Me too.
But for real, y'all, that Scooby Doo toy was my favorite Kids Meal toy ever. It's on model minus the colorless gold and the dark collar, and normally Kids Meal toys are these little gimmicky things where you wind up or do something stupid, and this was like a real toy and action figure.
Anyways.
Casey was willing to reprise the role if they made Shaggy a vegetarian in the movie, but there was already scenes written into the script of Shaggy eating crawfish. So Casey Kasem was out, Billy West was in.
No offense, old buddy, but I think your nose might be losing its touch.
Billy West gives Shaggy a certain flavor that I don't hate.
Like, hey, buddy, don't hog all the hot sauce.
It's not a perfect impression of Casey Kasem Shaggy, but I don't think it was intended to be. It's a little jarring at first, but you get used to it pretty quickly. Then you got Fred's voice actor over here, Frank Welker, the only returning cast member from the original series, but he was scared of getting replaced. Daphne's voice actress, Heather North, was replaced midway with Mary Kay Bergman. Velma's voice actress returned from the Johnny Bravo crossover, so this had Frank on edge, fearing he may share the same fate as Heather North. During recordings for the movie, the voice director kept insisting that Frank raise his voice, believing Frank's Fred voice had lowered with his age. However, Frank was doing a perfect voice match with his past self. What was said to be happening was the voice director had a skewed interpretation of Fred's voice because he was used to the rerun versions of the show. The version that airs on networks is cut to be shorter for more commercial time. This means that footage is sped up slightly. So Fred does have a slightly higher voice in the reruns because of the sped up footage warping the audio.
Well, if we're all through here, maybe we should get going?
Our story begins with Daphne on a talk show talking about her past adventures with Mystery Inc. The gang has gone their separate ways, similar to the live action movies that come later. Shaggy and Scooby just got fired from the TSA, Velma owns and operates a mystery bookstore, and Fred and Daphne produce a TV show starring Daphne.
Sort of a ghost to ghost with Daphne Blake.
Fred, as a birthday surprise, invites the gang back for a reunion. Daphne wants to shoot a TV special involving a real ghost.
I've got a show to do. I need a real live ghost.
That's an oxymoron, Daph.
The gang travel across the US trying to find a mystery that will lead to a real-life haunting. Their search is fruitless unless you count that absolute banger of a song that plays during the montage.
The ghost is here, give us a break, it's fake.
By chance, they meet up with Lena in Louisiana. She claims her workplace on Moonscar Island is truly haunted. Every few years, people go missing around the cursed island, so obviously they choose to follow Lena back to Moonscar Island and investigate the ghost sightings. There's a part where Fred's totally judging Shaggy for eating stale dog food. It just gets a chuckle out of me every time.
Like, even these stale Scooby snacks are beginning to taste good.
We're introduced to a few zany characters. We have Snakebite Scruggs, a disgruntled catfish hunter with a hunting pig named Mojo.
He's a lot better than any hound dog. Lot smarter than any dog, too.
Jacques, a very chill ferry driver helping people get on and off the island.
Moonscar Island, dead ahead.
And Bo, a very grouchy gardener.
I'll take care of it, gardener. Oh, incredible. No, not on this kind of thing. Oh, this is too much. My job.
And of course we have Simone Lenore, the owner of the plantation, which is said to produce the hottest peppers in Louisiana.
Like that was some hot pepper.
I wasn't exaggerating when I said they were the hottest peppers in Louisiana.
She's a cat lover, smart, prideful, and she appears to be displeased with the unexpected guest.
I heard these folks say they wanted to see a real haunted house, so I thought...
You might show them mine.
Despite being annoyed, she allows the gang to stay on the island and investigate.
Really?
Oh, I couldn't let you leave without offering some of our famous Southern hospitality.
As the night goes on, supernatural phenomena start to happen. We've got levitations, warnings carved into walls, and the dead coming back to life. Everyone has a different reaction. Velma is skeptical and wants to solve the mystery. Shaggy and Scooby are terrified and want to leave. Daphne is desperate for the ghost to be real, and Freddy is absolutely refusing anything beyond a guy in a mask, pointing fingers at every male character they come across.
It's the gardener.
No.
It's the fisherman. No, it's the ferryman.
Roll.
One of my favorite quirks of Zombie Island is that it shows a lot of the biases of the gang as they're solving the mystery. Daphne and Freddy's deductions are often colored by their own ego.
Well, I guess the guys liked your girlfriend's cooking too.
I just said I enjoy her cooking. And what about Bo?
What about him?
Daphne is jealous of Lena, who's clearly caught Fred's attention and is quick to point out how she's a suspect whenever Fred points fingers at Daphne's crush, Bo. It's super petty, but it gives the characters a little more nuance.
I think we should split up.
Good idea.
I'll go with Bo.
Bad idea.
I love how Velma just unhingedly destroys a wall for a clue.
Jinkies. Guess I got carried away.
And then Scooby and Shaggy were made into spice hounds for like only this movie. Louisiana is known for spicy Cajun food, so I totally get it.
I see you boys like it hot.
Like mo hotter, mo better, eh, Scoob?
There's also this really great gag of Shaggy wanting to dress up and shave before dinner, and after grooming himself, he looks identical. Oh, and Scooby has this running gag of not knowing he's a dog.
Wrong? Where?
And being uncontrollable around cats. And as a sapphic, I laugh every time at this.
This just gets better and better. Maybe from where you're standing.
So up to this point, we have Simone, the owner of the plantation and not an owner of a TV.
We do not have television on my island.
Lena, Simone's cook and Esmeralda cosplayer.
You do know your food.
Like we've traveled the world on our stomachs.
Jacques, a ferry driver and mostly absent from the plot. Snakebite, an asshole with a pig. And Bo, a pissed off gardener who's digging surprisingly large holes.
What are you planting? Elephants? That hole is huge.
As the movie goes on, we learn that in the past, Morgan Moonscar, a deadly pirate, came to the island to bury treasure. They murdered all the villagers who were living on the island. Yo, this movie has a kill count. So going forward, I have to talk about later parts of the movie, and if you would like to go into Scooby Doo on Zombie Island blind, I recommend going to find a copy and watching it first. It's got some really good plot twists and turns for a Scooby Doo movie, and it should be watched unspoiled. Anyway, it's becoming increasingly apparent that the ghosts aren't trying to harm the gang as much as they're trying to scare them off the island, and it's revealed that Simone and Lena are both survivors of the Morgan Moonscar attack. They pray to the cat god for the power to avenge their fallen kin, and this turns them into werecats. I now see the SWAT cat influence. Because of their blessing, or curse, depending on your point of view, they can now live forever as long as they absorb souls lured to the island by Lena. You know, a hocus pocus.
Sometimes it became necessary for Lena to lure outsiders back to the island.
I've had years of practice. And those zombies are just the poor souls you drained.
For Simone and Lena to absorb life forces, they have to take a soul to the sacrificial altar when the moon is in position. Jacques, who's also a furry, has made a deal with Simone to be her personal ferry operator for immortality.
The old man wanted immortality, so we gave it to him.
Okay, so Velma puts two and two together before anyone else and just kind of waits to fill everyone in for dramatic flair.
Looks to me like a place for voodoo rituals. But why don't we just ask Lena?
What are you talking about?
The gang plus Bo are captured with pre-made voodoo dolls. Bo, by the way, was an obvious red herring and is an FBI agent looking into the disappearances, like a decade way too late, but whatever. The voodoo dolls are made from the cloth and the hair of the victims and wax. The items used were shown earlier in the movie, like Velma's eyeglass cloth was mentioned to have gone missing earlier in the film, and Fred flirted with the idea of wearing an ascot before dinner.
Nah.
This leaves only Shaggy and Scooby as everyone's last hope. Now without some close calls, everyone's able to avoid getting their souls sucked, and the furries waste away gnarly. The ghosts can finally rest as well.
Thank you.
And Velma, not realizing she's gay yet, starts to flirt with Bo over mystery stories. I like to think Bo was super supportive of her lifestyle when she did come out, and they're still email pen pals.
Hurry up, Scoob! We're pulling out!
My mom got me a copy of Zombie Island and the Addams Family Reunion on VHS from a Kmart on the same day. I'm aware that two items in that sentence are no longer in circulation. So much of this movie was directly imprinted into my brain. The animation was nothing like the OG show, and my little dumb brain could tell. And I will forever think about Fred eating in this movie. He makes everything he eats look so tasty.
And these biscuits, light as a feather.
And without a doubt, I think Sky Cycle's It's Terror Time Again and The Ghost Is Here should be on everyone's Halloween playlist. I don't even care if people at your party haven't seen the movie. Those songs are absolute bangers.
Here comes the really scary part, 'cause it's terror time again.
Zombie Island to me was a really successful way to revive a franchise. Scooby could have went the way of Flintstones or the Jetsons, but instead this slightly more mature take on Scooby was just what the franchise needed to catch its breath, and it's never stopped running since. I'm aware that the Scooby-Doo franchise decided to poorly revisit Moonscar Island a few decades later. I don't know if it's really worth talking about. We did get some cool reanimated flashbacks and an admittedly pretty funny recap gag of the gang pointing out that they were there so they know what happened, so there's no reason for this recap.
And who could forget Snakebite Scruggs?
Not us.
'Cause, like, we were there.
Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island is a Scooby-Doo fans must-see, unless you're one of those people who prefer the ghost to always be fake, David. And if you're not David and would like to hear me talk about more stuff I care about, please subscribe, hit the bell, do all the things, and until next time, I'll see you then.
Rocky. Rats. Ripes.
Super quick last minute addition, but did you know that Zombie Island actually makes a cameo in Trick or Treat, my favorite horror movie? It's accompanied with some like pumpkin thing. I'm not sure what that's from, but it's Simone transforming, and I think that's just dope. I noticed it on the first watch.